Hey everybody, welcome back. Talking about Russia and sanctions, and does it even really matter? Does Russia even actually care about being sanctioned while they're pressing into the Ukraine? Probably not, and I'm going to give you some examples as to why that is. First of all, I wanted to give a shout out to Mark, to Michael, to Tags. Thank you for reaching out and helping out with the channel. It means a lot. Thank you to Julia for the box from Australia. Yes, I did get it, and it's full of Australian kind of touristy little trinkets. It's interesting, and I do appreciate it. And there's what looks like a $5 note. Is that actual money? Is this what they've done to the currency in Australia? Let me know. It doesn't look like the currency I saw when I was there, but that was back in the late 80s. That I had to go to Australia. But anyways, back to the point. Russia and the sanctions, because now the boogeyman, Joe Biden and Trudeau and all these really weak leaders with their limp wrists are, we're going to sanction Russia. I know I'm being really rude there, but it's okay. You'll get over it. We're going to sanction Russia. We'll show them. We'll stop them from invading the Ukraine. Sure. Like Russia, when they were having the discussion, who knows how long ago, a year, 2 years ago, and sat there and mapped it out and said, yeah, you think we can get away with invading the Ukraine? Didn't think of that. Didn't think of, we might get a slap on the wrist and get sanctioned. And weak leadership will leave you hurting. And we have weak leadership right now. Biden is not a strong leader, and they know it. He's not going to do really anything. If he does, I'll be shocked. The only thing this is good for, as far as the American government is concerned, that is war in Europe, especially if Russia's involved, is since nobody cares about the C virus anymore, this is your new excuse for everything. Oh, the Ukraine. Oh, Russia. Oh, the Ukraine. Oh, Russia. Instead of C virus, get the you-know-what constantly, which even people who were bought in are tired of hearing at this point. Here's your new excuse for everything wrong that was already wrong, and you knew it was a fraud to begin with. All right. So they sanctioned Russia. You sanctioned Russia, and here's the list. This is the list of so-called sanctions, the basic list. Blocking major Russian banks from U.S. connections, sanctions on individuals in Putin's power hierarchy. Basically, certain individuals can't access any funds they might have in the U.S. Restrictions on 13 major corporations and other entities, same basic threat. Restrictions on Russian military purchases. Do they buy anything from us? A block on Russian purchases of high-tech U.S. and it should say goods. But who cares? You know, they really don't get much from us. They don't import very much from anybody by comparison for the size of the country that it is. And it's not anything they can't get somewhere else if they really needed it. They don't care about the sanctions because they're mostly self-sufficient, more self-sufficient than the United States is, even more self-sufficient than China that imports a lot of food. Take a look at their imports. I want to show you this real quick. Tell me if they care. Here's the top 10 list of things that Russia needs to import and how much they spend on it. Compared in US dollars rather than rubles. You know, machinery including computers, electrical machinery, vehicles, pharmaceuticals, plastics, optical, technical, medical apparatuses, iron, steel, fruit and nuts. I think that's the only thing that would be of a concern because they would see a reduction in food if it was cut off, which it's not likely to be. Organic chemicals, clothing, and accessories. That's their top 10 list. By comparison, let's look at America's. What do we import? What's our top 10? Look at those numbers. Machinery, 361.6 billion in comparison to 43 from Russia. Think about that. Electrical machinery equipment, 343.5, and in Russia it's 30. You see the problem? Vehicles, 254 billion. Vehicles in Russia, 18. Pharmaceuticals, 139 billion. And in Russia, it's 10. Do you see the problem? Does it look like they're going to be hurting? Plastics for the United States is 62 billion. Plastics in Russia is 9. And I understand, of course, even though Russia by square miles is a larger country, their population is smaller. Here, take a look at Russia's population. That's their most current census, puts them at 145.5 million. Their population is less than half of that of the United States. But regardless of that, their spending on imports is still far less than it is in the United States. And here's America's population by comparison. You see it's more than double. But even if you were to cut our numbers in half, it's still way more than Russia spends on imports. They can do without imports. They'll be fine. So sanctioning them isn't going to hurt them. What would hurt them is boycotts. Has nobody thought of boycotting anything? Let's look at the U.S. here. The U.S. imports somewhere in the neighborhood close to 600,000 barrels of oil per day. It says last year, but we are pulling more. I've heard calculations that are much higher, something in the neighborhood of 585. So let's just say 600,000, just for a good round number, to, a good top number. How much does oil cost? Buying it from Russia, what is it, roughly $70 a barrel? So if you got $70 a barrel times 600,000 barrels a day, that's like $42 million. $42 million a day just from the United States, which is interesting actually because a barrel of oil is 42 gallons for those of you who are really into numbers. So 42 million a day as a top number. And that's how much? Almost 300 million a week, $1.2 billion a month. And Russia produces a lot of oil. More than 11 million barrels per day is produced in Russia. It's their number one export. Number two export being natural gas, which is why nobody's going to boycott them. A lot of Europe depends on that natural gas and the oil. If they boycotted it and got it somewhere else, I don't know, produced it themselves like we used to under Trump, and I'm not trying to blow Trump's horn, but he had a point. You want to be self-sufficient or as self-sufficient as you can. Again, refer to the numbers of how much stuff the United States imports that it shouldn't have to. Boycotting them would hurt them. Right now, if you're buying oil or natural gas from Russia, you're funding this war. You're funding this invasion, whatever you want to call it. The United States. And to be fair, I think that think about these numbers again. The amount of oil that we bring in from Russia only makes up for about 10% of our consumption. 10% of our overall consumption. But we could get it somewhere else or produce it ourselves. I mean, hell, you would almost think that that Biden sabotaged that whole thing with the pipeline on purpose to help Russia. And Trump's the one always getting accused of being in collusion? I don't know about that. But it makes you think. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? Because Biden allegedly has a lot to hide in the Ukraine, doesn't he? Or did I read that wrong? Anyways, thoughts. Again, like I said, this is a conversation that was had a long time ago in Russia at the boardroom level. Boardroom level. Where does that come from? See if anybody gets that reference. If you're into British sitcoms, you probably do. What are your thoughts about that? They already thought about that. They aren't concerned about sanctions. They aren't concerned about, oh, you can't buy this from us, or we're going to freeze some U.S. assets. S&P gave them junk credit status. What difference does that make if they're not buying anything from the U.S.? It doesn't matter. Plus, the stuff is sanctioned now anyways. Slap on the wrist, man. Russia doesn't care. Russia doesn't care. They only care about their current objective, and they're not going to back off unless you hit them right in the wallet, and nobody's going to do that because too many people rely on that oil and gas, and that's their biggest money maker, their biggest export. Again, thoughts? Feel free to post your thoughts in the comments section down below. Please do give the video a thumbs up if you get where I'm coming from. Share it if you can. Subscribe if you knew all that good stuff. Check out some of the other videos. Please do. Probably the only way they'll get found or seen. I have a lot of trouble with people trying to find videos or getting the word out from this channel. It's not treated very well by the powers that be. If you're curious about the cat images, if you're new to the channel, it does help with the algorithm uploading the videos. It was a tip that a viewer gave to me a while back, and it does work. If you wanted to help the channel out, every little bit helps, and believe me, I sure do appreciate it. There are links for that down below. And if that's it, then what more can I say but stay frosty, folks, and thanks for watching.